All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Real Estate Realities live Google Hangout for June 24th, 2015. Welcome again, everybody. We'll get rolling here, and as folks always jump on at the last minute, give everybody a chance to get on, get comfortable, get a pen and paper ready. And today we'll be talking about, I was about to say some exciting stuff. It's exciting once it clicks in your business and starts to provide some freedom and flexibility for you. But really, it's basics. It's powerful basics. There's transformation that can happen in your business when you really get your head and your arms around your time. And if you read the email that we sent out, I was talking about how kind of not having control of your time can really be devastating. It's the one resource that we just don't get any more of. I'm not going to say that it's easy to make money, but you can definitely make more money, but we'll never be able to make more time. And obviously that applies not only to our real estate businesses, but to our families and our lives and the things that are most purposeful in our life. If we're not investing that time well, then it's gone, it's spent, it's burned up. So I'm passionate about that. If you're here listening to me and talking with me, chances are you're passionate about getting the most out of your time, whether it's the 8, 10, 12 hours in a day that you're going to spend working, or whether it's the 70, 80, 90 years that you're going to have here on earth. So my goal is to be purposeful as I invest time with my business, my friends, my family, ministry, the things that I feel compelled to do and love to do. And you probably have things that you're passionate about as well. So what we're going to talk today about on its simplest form is our calendar. It's our schedule. What we're going to talk about on a bigger level is how we invest, how we steward that time, how we get the things out of life that we want in the time that we have. So when I train new agents on our team, and most of the members of our coaching group have heard me say this before, but repetition is incredibly valuable to hear it again. But I tell people on our team, the single most important piece of technology that we have is our calendar. And that might mean a Google Calendar, or your Outlook calendar, or your iCalendar, your Apple Calendar, or it could be a physical day timer in your hand. It could be a notepad. It could be whatever you're using to keep track of your time, how you invest your time. And we'll get into some very specific strategies, some things maybe you've heard before, some things you probably haven't heard before. And then we'll talk specifically about how each of our calendars is different. So this isn't a one size fits all where I say, hey guys, you should time block, and you've never heard that before, and now your life is different. We're going to talk more specifically about that. But when I talk about how a calendar can really set you free, most of our new team members kind of look at me with a little bit of skepticism in their eyes. And what I mean by that is, if you're anything like me, if you're like most real estate agents, and I'm not saying everybody on the Hangout is this way, but if you're like most people, you naturally feel like a calendar or a list or a schedule is going to be restrictive. It's going to force you to limit yourself to do some things that you may or may not want to do. So we're going to talk about some ways that your calendar really frees you up, really gives you flexibility, really allows you to be more spontaneous. So one of the things I'll talk about specifically right now is just how to be more productive. Is not necessarily to get more things on your calendar. It's not necessarily to get 87 things prioritized on a list and cram them into your calendar. It's to kind of have an idea of what's most important to you. And so folks that are with us at the end, I'll give you access to a link. You can download a document that my team uses to be more productive and more focused and more results oriented with our time. So the first thing you got to do before you can use a form or a resource like that, or even really before you can use a calendar well, is to understand what your priorities are. And so that takes us back a step or two steps to doing some annual planning, doing some quarterly planning, doing some monthly or weekly or even daily planning. And by planning, I just mean you want to know what outcome you want a year from now, or 90 days from now, or even 30 days from now. I would say people typically spend too much time on the 1 year and longer goals and not enough time on the next 7 days or the next 30-day goals. I recommend that you definitely do some quarterly planning where at least you're looking 90 days out, but you spend most of your time and your energy focused on what's the next 7 days or the next 30 days going to look like. Once you know that, then you're going to be able to really build out, what do I need to do today? What do I need to do tomorrow when I sit down at my calendar to get stuff done, to sell more houses, to make more money, to recruit more team members, to get more calls into the office or into my phone. So just to kind of get us started, before we're really going to be able to fill out the calendar, we need to know what we want to achieve at the end of the week or at the end of the month or at the end of the year. Potentially, you know, the old quote unquote BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal in 5 or 10 years. Those are good things to have. Those are good visions to have. It's certainly a good mental exercise to spend some time developing that. But you don't want to spend the bulk of your time focused on those big long-term goals. You want to spend the bulk of your time getting stuff done and getting stuff done that you want to have done at the end of the week or at the end of the month. So I've got Kenny Oakes on the call with me here. Kenny's our operations and marketing director here for the team and for our coaching group. And he'll be able to pop in and share and help with a little bit of the Q&A if there is any, just to help you guys understand how we do these things on our team and how folks in our coaching group are doing these things to get great results. So one of the first things I'm going to say about, you know, actual calendar technique is you don't necessarily want to jam pack as much as you possibly can into your calendar. Now, I will show you my calendar here in a minute, and you'll see that there's a ton of stuff on there. But it's not necessarily about getting more things done. It's going to be more so about getting the right things done, getting the most valuable things done for you and for your business. So let's just take, for example, this week is a bad week because I'm technically on vacation and just kind of snuck out to head over to the office for a couple of hours to talk with you guys. And then I'll grab my wife and the kids and we're going to head over to Six Flags this evening. So we're kind of doing an in-town vacation this week. But in a normal week for me, a good day, I've got 5 or 6 or 7 things that I want to get done. And I've got 1 or 2 major things that really need to get done. And if I allocate my time well, if I get the top thing on my list done, it was a good day. But I want to get all 5 or 6 or 7 things done. But it's not 37 things. Now, that doesn't mean I'm not going to do 30 or 40 things, but I'm going to build my calendar around that number 1 thing and then another 4 or 5 things to where I might have 5 or 6 or 7 things that I want to get done. But instead of thinking how many things can I get on my calendar, it's most important to think about how can I get the most important things done. So this is where your calendar is definitely going to look different from mine. If you're a brand new agent, you know that you need prospecting on your calendar, but you may not know that you need some marketing time on your calendar. You may not be building in regular database building time on your calendar, and you should be doing that. Now, if you're a seasoned broker and you have a team of 6 or 8 or 10 or 12 or 15 people and you're selling 100, 200, 300 houses a year, or you're generating $1 million plus in gross commission income, or your target is to do 250 and you're at 200, then you're going to have slightly different things on your calendar. You might have some recruiting on your calendar. You might have some time for investing and training your team on your calendar. So the things that are going to go on your calendar are going to be different for all the different people that are with us today and listening to this recording, or people that you're sharing this with. But the way that we construct our calendar for maximum results is going to be fairly similar for everybody. So I'm not going to spend 45 minutes talking about time blocking. I believe in time blocking and you should do it. And I believe that things are mostly done in 60 or 90-minute time chunks. But at the same time, I allocate 15 minutes for phone calls. Some phone calls are going to be 2 minutes, but I may need some prep time. I may need some transition time before I get into the next thing. I allocate 90 minutes for every appointment. Some appointments are going to take longer than that. If I'm on a second or third interview with somebody, it's probably going to take longer than that. If I have a first interview with somebody, it's probably going to take less than that. But let's talk for a second about how successful people allocate their time. How do CEOs allocate their time? I was actually on a consulting call. I love real estate, but I also just love small business. So I was helping actually a software company, the other day, talk through how they were allocating their time towards sales and marketing, and then sales training and marketing training. And I was talking to the CEO of the company about how he was allocating his time. Interestingly enough, he doesn't have a super busy calendar, meaning on paper, but of course he's extremely busy. His company's in a growth phase. They're kind of at a venture capital and or potential sales phase in their business. But what it comes down to is that he kind of has one thing every day that he needs to get done. Unfortunately, like a lot of leaders, he's spending too much time kind of in the heat of the battle, getting a lot of stuff done. I read a good book here recently that I'll send out in an email. I can't think of the name of it right now, but Kenny, maybe you can think of it. It's a productivity book. I'm totally blanking out right now, but he talks about being in the swirl, and that leaders spend too much time in the swirl, and that's kind of his definition for just kind of the day-to-day hectic problem solving, plugging holes, getting stuff done in their business. Do you remember the book? I think I told you. No. Okay.
I don't remember.
We'll post a link. I'll remember it probably as soon as we shut this thing down. But I've got it in my Audible account, so I'll grab it. It was a recommendation that Joe Polish made. I heard him on a podcast and immediately grabbed the book and read it, and it was good. But it's kind of like 4-hour work week, but probably a little bit better. But anyway, I'll share that with you guys. But he talks about how leaders, and I was having this exact same conversation with this CEO of the software company the other day, often get caught up in the swirl of the business. So if you have an office, if you have a team, or even if you're a solo agent and you have several transactions going, if you open your email or if you come into the office, there's plenty for you to do. Somebody's going to say, hey, the copier's messed up and someone needs to call the lease company. If you're not careful, you'll spend a half day fixing that. Somebody might say, hey, I have an appointment in an hour and we're out of folders. If you're not careful, you'll find yourself running out to grab folders. If you pop into the office and 2 of your agents have contracts going and they say, hey, I'd like you to look over this, that's great, but you might find yourself doing that at a whim. And then by the end of the day, it's 6 or 7 or 8 p.m. and you still haven't gotten done the 1 or 2 or 3 big things that you needed to get done. So when we talk about how CEOs use their time, I was actually in a leadership Bible study / leadership meeting with a guy, Sepulveda is his name. He runs Interstate Battery. And he taught me a lesson on accident. He didn't even mean to teach me this. He just kind of said, look, I don't really have a whole lot that I have to do here. And this is a big, really global company that's really well known and really well respected. And he's the CEO of the company. And he shared with me, it was kind of 2-on-1. There's one other guy that was talking with him, and he just said, look, there's really not anything that I need to do every day for our company to generate revenue. But there are some things that if I don't do these things regularly throughout the growth of our company could potentially collapse. And what he was talking about is making sure that projects were getting done, that the right people were being put in the right places, and that people were working well together and that they were happy. He had grown beyond the role of sales or sales training or marketing training. He had even really grown beyond the role of recruiting. He was in the business of making sure that things were working right. So he built his calendar around the first couple of hours of every day. All he did was touch base with his key leaders and make sure that they had what they needed, who they needed, and they had his ear if they needed it. Then he would kind of get in the swirl of things and he would get things done. And then he had built several hours of his time every day into reading, learning, training, interviewing, thinking, having lunches, breakfast, dinners with people that could move his company forward. So when you think about the way CEOs use their time, it's not about getting the most minutes of prospecting, and it's not about talking to the most people. It's not even necessarily about making the most sales. Now, you may not yet be in the CEO position, but you want to build some of that mindset into your business. What are the most important things for me to do to move my business forward? And I need to allocate a certain amount of time to my time to that. And then I can come in behind that and put in the obvious needs, like I have to prospect for a couple of hours a day. I have to work on my database. I might have to recruit. I might have I've got to do some training. So wherever you are in your business, think about that higher level stuff. What are the most important things I need to get done in the next 30 or 60 or 90 days in my business? That might be that I need to build one more lead generation system in for listings. So that may be the most important thing you do every day, and let that build for the next 90 days. And then you've built a new, whatever you want to call it, oil well or pump or funnel into your business for listing opportunities. If you do that once per quarter, over the next 2 years, you're going to have 8 new sources of listings built into your business, done well, fairly automated, ready to go. Or you might do 4 sellers and 4 buyers, or 3 sellers, 3 buyers, and 2 for new team members. But those system focused, those big higher level CEO type allocations of your time are very important. Everyone needs prospecting in your time. That needs to be based on the research you can do or others have done for you on when the results are given. You know, Kenny may comment here on kind of how we do that on our team, but the research in our market is that the most consistent time for contacts is actually lately it's been in the evenings, right, Kenny? Probably 4 to 6 is what our agents are
usually. Yep. And that was a shift in our market from just talking with our agents and keeping on top of that with tracking from morning prospecting to that having the highest contact rate previously, and then kind of just reevaluating that and switching that up, and now realizing that, you know, it's actually the early evenings when everyone's kind of getting off of work and back available with their, you know, phones and things like that, that most people are picking up. So
yeah, so historically we had said morning prospecting 8 to 10:30 a.m. was the best contact time, and we tracked it and we learned that it shifted in our market to 4 to 6 p.m. So here's the thing though, we still have 8 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. or probably 8:20 a.m. to 10:30 a.m. prospecting time on our team, because it's still probably the second highest contact rate, but we know that's the time our team members have the most flexibility with their time. So we recommend and we ask them that if they're not crazy busy to try to get some 4 to 6 p.m. prospecting time in. But our daily team focus is still on that 8:30 to 10:30 a.m. or 8:20 to 10:30 a.m. window, because we know that's when they have the least demands on their time. It's the same for me. A breakfast meeting is the easiest meeting for me to schedule. Mornings are the best time for me to work on big, huge projects, because the flow of the day has not gotten out of hand yet. Clients haven't started needing things yet. People haven't started calling me to have lunch with them. I haven't started getting responses to my previous day's prospecting for lunch appointments or dinner appointments, or, you know, meeting with our top advocates and that type of deal. So be thinking about that. You want to allocate your time into your calendar based on what you need to get done, but also based on when is the most likely time for me to actually get that done with the fewest number of intrusions and interruptions, and when is the most sensible time during the flow of my day or my prospect or whoever I'm trying to reach or get that done with. For instance, we have a couple of providers of services that we use. One's in Hawaii, we have one in California, we have one in Nicaragua. So if I need to schedule time to work with those people, it may be convenient for me to do that at 6 a.m. my time, but that may be midnight their time. So I need to think through my calendar a little bit more than just shoving stuff on there and getting it done. So hopefully that point is made. If you have questions, feel free to lob them into the Q&A deal or post them on the Hangout page.
And hey, Todd, is that book that you were thinking, was it called Less Doing, More Living?
Yes, that's it. Less Doing, More Living. Do you have the author's name?
Yeah, it's Ari, A-R-I, Meisel, M-E-I-S-E-L.
Ari Meisel, Less Doing, More Living.
Making everything in life easier is what it's called.
Yeah. Okay. So that's the one on max productivity and not doing stupid stuff that's a waste of your time. So
yeah. And then one other point, I think, just going off of the last thing that you said of, you know, people needing to think through when the best time for them to allocate their time is. I think part of that is also understanding how you work best. So there's certain times of the day that, you know, your energy levels may be higher, and you know, it's a common productivity, you know, tactic to do the biggest thing first. And so, you know, if I'm a morning person, and if I know that, getting up early is what's best for me, if I start working on a bigger project in the morning, as opposed to waiting until early evening or late afternoon, then I know that I'm more efficient, I'm more effective at doing that. And so I think that it's important when you're building your schedule to know your calendar is not set in stone. And we tell our agents this too, is that, build your schedule, but also know that if things are just consistently not happening according to the time that you've allocated towards that, then feel the freedom to adjust that and find maybe that it works better for you to show properties on a different afternoon, or maybe to work on your marketing stuff, in the morning or on a Saturday morning, instead of trying to do it on an afternoon when you think, oh, this is normal business hours, so I feel like I should be doing this right now. So I think, allowing people to have freedom to know, this is how I work best and this is when I work best, and then adjusting the calendar to accommodate that.
Yeah, and that's how you work less and get more done, right? So if I'm twice as productive from 8 a.m. to 10 a.m., then that's when you want to build that big piece of your business, a new lead source. That's when you want to do recruiting, whatever the biggest need area in your business is, so that you can spend 45 minutes in the morning instead of 2 hours in the afternoon where, whatever, your wife's calling you, or you got to get across town and beat traffic, or you're trying to do too many things at once, or you're much more likely to be interrupted. You're a morning person. I'm not naturally a morning person, but I've kind of grown into being a morning person because I've got little kiddos and I volunteer and I work. And I got so many things going on that most other people are not getting a lot done in the morning. So if I get up to do stuff in the morning, fewer people are going to interrupt me. Fewer people are going to call and bother me. I learned a long time ago, and I have to give credit to my old man, when I was just starting out and I wanted to interact with people that were more successful than me, that offering to buy them breakfast was a very successful approach, because nobody else was asking them for their time at that time of day. You try to take a successful guy to lunch, that's pretty tough to get on his lunch calendar. Try to get somebody in the evening that's got a family and a social life, and that's pretty tough to do. But to say to someone, hey, let me buy you a cup of coffee or breakfast in the morning, number one, it shows some initiative and it shows that you're a go-getter. But number two, there's a lot fewer demands on all of our time in the morning. So that is the time of day. Even if you're not a morning person, if you're just in full-on get stuff done, hustle now mode, then that's the time I would recommend that you start to cut out to get ahead. But talking about working less and producing more, if you're just much more interactive, more sociable, more functional at certain times, that's when you should schedule your most important work. To Kenny's point, if you're a buyer agent or a showing agent, you want to set expectations up front and you want to use your calendar to do that. So you might say, look, I show homes on Tuesday nights, Thursday nights, Friday afternoons, and Saturday mornings. So just going into it, you can know that I'm available at those times. And what that helps you to do is to be totally ready to show homes at those times and not be distracted at other times with maybe I'm going to go show homes at those times. If you're a listing agent or what we call a marketing agent, your appointments are potentially going to be a little bit longer, but you might be able to get away with more lunch appointments or potentially some morning appointments, maybe even later in the evening where you can double up on evening times for different reasons. We don't want to talk about all that right now. We don't have time for it, but and the other thing I want to talk about is how not to focus constantly on getting paid for your time. When we talk about calendars so much, when we talk about allocating time, you can start to kind of think about, how do I best use my time to make the most money? And that's the right thought. But you don't want to get paid for your time. You want to get paid for your expertise. We talk about, athletes kind of get paid for game day is what everybody thinks. But the reality is they're getting paid for all the practice and preparation and dietary discipline and all those things they have. So we want to use our time to our maximum efficiency. And then our clients, they view game day as when we're with them or we're working directly for them. We're working an offer, we're getting marketing up and ready. But it's also important that we're learning, that we're taking some breaks to clear our minds, that we're building great culture with our teams and trust with other agents. So you don't want to think about, I have to always be prospecting. I have to always be with a client. You need to be totally fine to be with your family at times, because that makes you a healthy professional. You need to be totally fine with cutting away and doing a training class or reading a book or cleaning up your database, and knowing that that's a valuable part of your business. If you're like me, you can feel the guilt that you always need to be prospecting or need to be with a client. And that's not a healthy way to run your business, and it's not a healthy way to build your calendar either, because number one, it's usually unrealistic. And number two, it can be incredibly discouraging. Like Kenny was saying, you have this on your calendar for like 87 appointments this week, and you're always coming up short, always coming up short. Your calendar can become a beatdown. What you want to do is reevaluate your calendar weekly, quarterly, annually, just like you do your business plan. And that's a hangout for another time. We've talked about that before, but you want to reevaluate and say, number one, I did my goal setting. I did my quarterly planning or my annually planning. And then I had a monthly goal sheet. That's how we do it on our team. And then from my monthly goal sheet, I'm chunking that down to build out my daily activity plan. And if you stick with us at the end, we'll post a link and you can download and print the exact daily plan that I created for my team. I borrowed some of it from Chet Holmes, borrowed some of it from Rockefeller Habits, created some of it our own, where we can get our daily plan together, track our daily calling, track our vendor referrals. But we also use simple Google Google Calendar, and I'll just kind of show you mine right now. See if you guys can see this. You see that, Kenny?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is this week would be bad because I'm kind of on vacation. But this is, I believe, is just next week. And without going through a ton of detail, the next week's a little bit unusual too. But green is kind of the highest dollar activity that I do. I code it by color. We won't get into all that, but you can just kind of see. I've got some 90-minute segments, and then I've got some 30-minute segments, and then I've got calls allocated in 15 minutes. I put things in red if it's just kind of one-off, it's not routine. The gray stuff is kind of things I do pretty much every day or several times a week. I allocate time for recruiting, our impact zone meetings where we're discussing our marketing plan, all of our listings, our accounting, coaching call, coaching group stuff, business development, strategy sessions with people. When I'm doing some private consulting, when I'm writing our newsletter or writing our weekly emails, or getting marketing pieces together. And then I also put my personal family stuff on here. So I've got family time, church group, discipleship group I'm leading, men's Bible study, church, social stuff, going to a ball game, date night with my wife. So you can see all kinds of different stuff on there. I'll give you kind of an example of, this is one of our primary marketing listing agent. This is a couple of weeks out, so his isn't that full yet. But you can kind of see what he's doing with appointment slots filled out. He's got his kid stuff and his family stuff in there. Just to mess with Kenny, I'll throw his up there. He's got our marketing meetings and his morning, kind of getting all of our automated marketing out and stuff like that. But that kind of gives you an idea of getting the most important things on there. You saw our mornings were pretty heavy for team stuff. We do our morning practice and our morning huddles, obviously in the morning, because those things are crucial to our team. And then our agents have, they're free to do whatever they need to do after about 11 o'clock. And so we have no showings scheduled early. We have no inspections, no closings, and except for rare situations where we have to. But that's how we're looking at that allocation of time, because again, we want to get our high level build towards the monthly goal stuff done, usually in the morning, but for you that might be late at night. But you want to build it into your calendar first, the crucial, like, this has to happen in the next 90 days, and then build in your automatic stuff. I'm going to prospect every day. I've got to do that. Am I going to do 2 hours, 2.5 hours straight, or am I going to do an hour early and an hour and a half late? Or am I going to break that up differently? Am I going to do all my phone calls early and my emails late? Am I going to do text messaging a couple of days a week. We have a lead follow-up plan that's actually different on different days. But you don't want to focus too much on getting paid for your time. You want to use your time to build your value. So you perform a very small amount of your time with clients and on actual transactions, and you get paid very well for that time, just like a CEO would allocate his time. Now, here's why a schedule will make you more professional and also make you look more professional. So just think about if you are sitting down with a potential seller or a potential buyer, and you say, I spend an hour each morning just growing in what I do, getting better at what I do, and that's uninterrupted time. So I'm usually not available for phone calls between whatever that time is going to be for you, say 9 a.m. and 10 a.m. Or, I show homes from 4:30 to 7 p.m. on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday, and then on every other Saturday morning. So those times are available for us to schedule. Just saying that to a client shows them, I have a business I run here. These are the times I do that, and there are other times I do other things. So not only is it going to make you more professional, helping you be more organized and steward your time better and have more time for things outside of work, it's also going to give that impression, which is an accurate impression, to your clients and even your transaction partners and your I hate to use the word competition, but your agent partners throughout town that you're doing transactions with, that know, hey, this guy's on top of things. She gets stuff done. She has her schedule laid out. I'm not going to bother her, or I know that if she's not calling me back, it's because she's doing something important. She's not just forgetting to call me. So you want to think about using your calendar to be more professional, but also share with people that you have a calendar. Be obvious about how you allocate your time. Hey, I'm booked at that time. I'm not going to be able to do that, but I could be able to do it at either of these two other times. How would that work for you? Now, booked might mean that you're going on a date with your wife or your girlfriend, or you're taking your kids to a movie, or you're going whatever it is that you do to get a massage or whatever. Hey, I'm booked at that time. That slot on my calendar is full, but I've got these two spots available. So just be thinking about that, how your calendar can make you more professional, but also make you look more professional. I grew up working for my dad in the warehouse in the summer. He had a toner cartridge business, believe it or not, that eventually died and went away. But what I was able to learn, one of the biggest things I was able to learn is what he called Lombardi time. And most of you are probably familiar with Vince Lombardi, Hall of Fame coach, football coach. And everyone on my team knows Lombardi time. I can see Kenny smirking right now because he's heard me say this too many times. But Vince Lombardi's deal was, if you're 15 minutes early, you're on time. If you're on time, you're late. And if you're late, you don't work here anymore. And that was my dad's policy when I worked in the warehouse in the summers. And that's become a kind of a battle cry for our team. But the way you build that into your calendar is, you don't have a buyer appointment at 5 o'clock that ends at 6:30, and then a really important is 7. That's not a wise way to allocate your time. You need a gap in there so you can always be 15 minutes early. And even if both of those things are happening at your desk, being early really just means being prepared, being collected, being calm. Let's say you have 3 marketing appointments or 3 listing appointments. You've got one at 4, and then that's an hour and a half. So at 5:30, you've got another one. And then you've got another one at 7. Well, number 1, you're going to be late to number 2, and you're going to be really late to number 3 if things go well. Even if you're on time, you're jumping out of the car, you're grabbing your file, you're running into the house. Even if they're all in your office, you're coming out of one, you're using the restroom, you're running into the other one. If you leave enough gap to travel or to get collected and to be early, I used to be notorious when I used to go out for appointments, is I'd park 2 houses down because I was so early that it was awkward. But I'd go through my file, I'd call the office, I'd double check, I'd check my email, I'd turn my phone off. I'd be 100% prepared and ready for that next appointment, so that I wasn't still thinking about the one I just left, trying not to forget to write something down from the last one, coming into this one, getting the two confused. You want to be Lombardi time. You want to think about Lombardi time. You want to be 15 minutes early at least to everything you do, whether it's a phone call, an appointment, even if it's just time you've allocated to do some research, even if it's an in-office meeting with your team. You want to have that 15 minutes of time, a buffer, to get your thoughts collected and prepare and be ready. I cannot overstate that. A couple of years ago, the Packers put up a new clock on at Lambeau Field, and it was dedicated to Vince Lombardi. And the clock in the stadium is set 15 minutes early. So it forces people to always be 15 minutes early. I just got a kick out of that. But that's what Lombardi time is, and that's how you should build that into your calendar. Now, the reason you should schedule your personal and your social time into the same calendar that you schedule your work, professional, training, growth stuff is so that you can allocate your time in one place. So you're not working between two calendars, so that you're not forgetting personal things when you're hyper-focused on work things, or vice versa. It's important to know when you start with the blank calendar, the first things that should go on there are the most important things in your life. Now, I know that sounds obvious, but I'll say it again. The first thing that should go onto your calendar is the most important thing in your life. Now, your life may be different than mine. I'm sure it is. There's no way that we're the same exactly. But let me pull my calendar up one more time. And whether you agree or think differently than me, that's fine. But if you can see, I don't know how big or small you can see it, but the first thing that's on my calendar at 5:30 or 6 every morning, I just put Jesus on there, by the way. But that's my time for prayer, reading my Bible, getting collected for the day, getting my mind right, studying something. But that's my number one most important thing. I believe that my life is best informed by God's word. And if I really believe that, then that's going to be the most important thing in my life. So every single morning, that's the first thing I do, and I don't want to overlook it. Now, that doesn't mean that on some days it doesn't happen in the morning, but then I want to make sure it happens before the end of the day. But usually that's the first thing that happens. Gets my mind right, and it's my number one priority. A lot of days, the next thing is spending some time with my family. Now, that may be 20 minutes with the kids or my wife in the morning over a cup of coffee, or kind of as I'm getting ready, but it's a big priority for me. Other days, I know that's the best time of day to have no other demands, so I have breakfast with some guys, whether that be professional or social or Bible study or whatever. And then I get into the work stuff. But just to give you a snapshot, the most important thing should go on first. It may not be in the morning for you, but it should be the first thing on there. I should have showed you, I'm not going to do it again, but date night with my wife is usually on Thursday night. It gets bumped to Friday sometimes, but that's the next thing that goes on. Evening time with my kids, if I'm coaching their team or if I'm just allocating time to make sure I'm spending good time with them, is on there. Time with my team members, we call them impact zones. So Mondays are kind of a heavy meeting day for us. We talk about our marketing. We talk about all of our active properties. Wednesdays, we talk about budgeting and finances. So those meetings are built in. And then for me, I put prospecting time in there. Prospecting is a little bit different for me than when I was a buyer agent or when I was our primary listing person. But I still want to talk to our advocates, our best preferring people each day. So I still prospect for that. I prospect for referrals. I prospect for new team members and talent. I prospect for people in other markets that we're growing into. And then I put some of the routine things into my calendar last, lunch appointments, and I fit other things that need to happen one-off that are not regular, coaching call, content creation, writing for if I'm working on a new book or an article or blog or whatever. So those are some thoughts on that, but it's not a new thought for you to start with the most important thing, but I'm just trying to give you some strategies for how you can build that into your calendar, work around your gifts, and have success with that. I think the best time of day to do the most important thing is first thing, because no one else is going to demand your time. If you're just a nightmare of a person in the morning, don't do that. It may be late at night for you, but it probably is not mid-morning, or anytime between then and late evening, because you have lots of demands on your time throughout that. You probably don't have a whole lot of demands on your time after 10 or 11 p.m. or until about 9 a.m. So that's when I would recommend that you do those things where you just need to get away and focus and get stuff done. And your schedule is going to look very different from mine, but you're probably going to have the same focus areas and same priorities as mine. So that's why I really recommend that you think through some of the priorities that we've already talked about. Now, what I'd like to do with kind of the remaining time we have and answer any questions you've got. So feel free to submit a question on the Q&A deal or post one on the Hangout page. Kenny, if you can keep an eye on that, if you see anything else on there. There's a couple that I'll definitely answer that I've already gotten. But it's important to know that your calendar is not a secondary thing. You need to have integrity with yourself. And this is where we're going to get into a little bit of mindset stuff, but stay with me because this is really important to your calendar. But you need to set your priorities. And I believe that's best done through the goal setting process. So if you've committed, I am going to achieve these 4 or 3 or 5 key things over the next 90 days. And for the next 30 days, I've got 2 of those things that I definitely need to get done. Then I've prioritized them as 1 and 1A or 1 and 2. That's how I'm going to start to build out my daily and weekly goals. I need to be able to sit down every day, look at my calendar, and immediately know this is what I need to be doing right now. So this is why you need to step back and take some time building out your calendar so that in a good way, your calendar runs your day. And what I mean by that is not that you're a slave to your calendar, but your calendar has helped you prioritize your time towards the most important things. If you do that, you'll have gaps of time in your calendar where you can do whatever it is that you want to do. That actually allows time for creativity, spontaneity, and flexibility. So if you look down and you have 2 hours in the early afternoon on your calendar and there's nothing on there, and you have managed this process well, then you can say, cool, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. I'm going to surprise my wife or my girlfriend, or I'm going to go get my car washed, or I'm going to run over to the shooting range, or I'm going to go to the gym, or I'm going to go for a run, or I'm going to go drive my car out to the place that I like to just sit and be quiet. And I'm going to go listen to some music. I'm going to go get ice cream. I'm going to go do whatever it is I want to do. I'm going to be spontaneous because the structure I built into my calendar has allowed me to do that. Now, if you're sitting there shaking your head right now and you disagree with me, think about this. Tell me this. If you don't have a calendar where your priorities are in there, tell me if your spontaneity often leads to guilt, right? If you pop up and say, I'm going to go play golf this afternoon, and then right about the 3rd hole, you start thinking, what should I be doing right now? What's a better use of my time right now? Have I done enough prospecting? Am I doing enough marketing? Am I wasting money right now that I should be spending on something else? Can I afford to spend 4 or 5 hours on the golf course? Am I messing up the allocation of my time? Tell me if you've ever had that thought, because my guess is if you're anything like me or all the business owners I talk to all the time, it's hard to be spontaneous in our business if you have not built the structure. Now, Kenny knows this because he does one-on-ones with our agents all the time. And even in our team, when we have good structure, sometimes there's kind of this like, I don't know what else I should be doing right now to hit my goals. And we have to kind of go, hey, here's a reminder. Here's your goal sheet. Here's your calendar. Are you sticking to this? Because if you're sticking to this, you should know what to do. And when you have available time, you should know, here's the 1 or 2 things I should do with any extra time I have to build my business, or I can go do whatever it is that I want to do. I hope that's helpful to you, but it's a shift in your thinking that the structure of a calendar, of a schedule, actually allows for more spontaneity and more freedom. Kenny, do you have any thoughts on how our agents, a lot of times that doesn't register, but then they start to really go, oh, that's starting to make sense. I can leave town for 3 days because I know I've done what I needed to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's a common kind of misconception in the beginning when they are hearing us encourage them to, develop a schedule, develop a calendar, write out your goals potentially for the first time in your entire life. Track that back to when you're going to do it, and then you know, there's just a lot of resistance to that just because it's difficult. And once they start to see that works, and that, you know, provides and creates freedom and availability in their schedule, and other times when they know, you know, my mind has got some clarity. I don't have to constantly be thinking, oh, I've got to show this person, or I've got to write this offer, or I've got to respond to this thing. I know exactly when things are getting done, and I know how to allocate my time. That's when we start to see that, you know, the agents are starting to really take ownership of that. And then one other thing I would think would be helpful to mention is also as you're developing your calendar and your schedule and things like that, like Todd was talking about, you know, you have to own that time, and you have to have kind of integrity with yourself, but that's difficult. So I would encourage you, and this is what we do, you know, this is what a team's there for, is we provide accountability for that, for those people. And so, you know, I can say, I'm going to put something on my calendar, and I can say to myself, I'm going to always do it because it's on my calendar. But when I consistently find that I'm not meeting that time, or I'm not able to make it happen at that time, if someone doesn't come and say, you know, how's that going, or how's that thing that you're working on going, then, you know, I can brush over that. But if someone's giving me accountability, and that's what we offer to the agents, you know, I'm checking in with their goal sheet and looking at their calendar, like, hey, you had this on your goal sheet, but you're not making any time for it. So how do you expect to do it?
Yeah.
You know, that's just like a life lesson right there. Just, if you want something to happen, then invite other people into it, and encourage them to ask you questions about it and to follow up with you on it.
Yeah, that's a really good point that I didn't mention too. That's one of the reasons we use the Google Calendar. For the most part, everybody can see each other's calendar. Now, you can mark some things as private if you don't want somebody to know that you're shopping for a ring or going to the doctor or whatever. But I can look at Kenny's calendar right now. I can deselect mine and open his up, and then I can say, hey, man, you've been putting, you know, an hour every third Thursday to prep a newsletter, but a newsletter didn't go out last month. What the heck's going on with that? And it's like, yeah, like that's the wrong time for me to have that. I got to find another spot for that, which that would be a big problem, by the way. But that's how that stuff works. We can look at a buyer agent's deal and say, hey, look, you've got prospecting 2.5 hours every day, and then you've got this extra call night in there, or you've got Saturday morning calls. When's the last time you actually made Saturday morning calls? I'm not seeing that in your tracking numbers. And then it's like, you know, I haven't been doing that. Honestly, I just kind of been glazing over that. It's like, all right, well, here, let's do a couple of simple things. Let's change the color of that in your calendar so that pops out at you. And let's either change the time, or let's add a reminder, or let's have some accountability. What are you going to do if next week when we talk, that hasn't been done yet? Are you going to give me $10? We had, Kenny may laugh or he might cry. I think he was really nervous when I did this, but we had a guy on our team that needed to get a certain spreadsheet updated, and it was on his calendar a couple of times and it didn't get done. And I said, okay, that's twice now it's been on your calendar and it didn't get done. Is it going to be done tomorrow morning by the time our huddle is done? He's like, yeah, it's on my calendar. I'm going to do it tonight. I said, okay, are you willing to bet me, I don't know, 20 or 25 push-ups, whatever it was, 20 push-ups on top of our conference table in the middle of our huddle tomorrow morning? If you don't get it done, will you do the push-ups here? And I think I said, if you do get it done, I'll do the push-ups here. And he's like, okay, that's fine. And he didn't get it done. And I have a video on my phone of everyone in the room kind of with this awkward face, like, is this okay? Is it okay to make people do push-ups? And the only noise you can hear is silent. Everyone's awkwardly nervous. The only noise you can hear is his necklace going, hitting the table every time he goes down for a push-up. But that was our accountability. And that's dramatic and a little bit extreme, but letting other people see your calendar and asking someone is, hey, this is important to me. I want to pay this debt off, or I want to sell one more house every month for the next 6 months. And I want to make sure that I do what it takes. So the other side of that is the competitive piece of this. So if I can see Kenny's calendar and I can see that he's built into his calendar that he wants to set 8 appointments a week. And so he's built in extra prospecting time. And I look at my calendar and I have available time and I'm not prospecting as much as him. I'm going, if he can do it, I can do it. I don't want him to have more closings on the board than me. So that's a healthy competitive deal that can happen on a team as well. So that's something to be thinking about. The other thing I wanted to just kind of mention is that I even do this. It works so well for me. I even do it on vacation. And I said I wouldn't share my screen again, but I'm going to just real quick. Here's my calendar for this week. And it looks like a bunch of open space because it's a vacation, but that was taking my family out to the lake. There was something in here that my wife surprised us with, so I didn't know it. We went to a movie, and then we did some fun stuff with the kids, and then we went bowling. And today we're going to Six Flags, and then tomorrow we're going to the aquarium. And we're doing food trucks, and we're doing all this cool stuff. But I even have that built in on vacation. And my point is, even on vacation, if I take a quick glance at that, that helps me know, where do I have a gap? Where could I take a nap? Where could I go on a walk with my wife? Where could I surprise my family with something that we didn't schedule? Where do I have freedom to be spontaneous and relax and do extra stuff? So I really hope that you believe me on the schedule will provide freedom and flexibility. In our coaching group the other day, we did a hot seat call, and I was talking to one of our members who his big goal right now is to break through $50 million in production, and he's doing a lot of things right. This isn't like, where's the major leak in your business? This is kind of, hey, where can we tighten a few things up? And my reminder that triggered is to have fun in your business. If you're not careful, especially if you're in a high growth mode, you're just pouring more work, prospect more, sell more, do more marketing, track more, check the numbers more, grind it. And I'll tell you that'll kill you. I've gotten calls from 3 different extremely successful, extremely productive real estate agents from around the country. Some of them are coaches and consultants of other people, and I would never name names, but I'll just say, I've had those guys call and email me and just say, hey, dude, what do I do? I'm burnt out. I'm dying. I do not want to do it again tomorrow. And my reminder is always the same. And I should send them a hefty consulting bill because it works. And I always get a call a week or 2 later being like, thank you so much. That's what I needed. So let me help you not burn out by remembering what's fun about this business for you. And for me, that's grabbing lunch, grabbing coffee, grabbing dinner, going to a ball game, doing something that one of my clients and or I really like to do with someone that's valuable to invest in a relationship with, right? So it's valuable for me to take Kenny to, I don't know, a microbrewery. Kenny likes, locally brewed beer. So for me to invest in a team member, Kenny and I do food, we do conferences. I take him with me all over the country because he likes learning. So I'll buy Kenny a book, or I'll say, hey, Kenny, I'm going to this conference. I'll cover the cost of the flight and the room if you want to come with me, right? But for other team members, that might be, we got a guy on our team that loves fishing. I might say, hey, dude, let's cut out Thursday afternoon and go fishing for a couple of hours. And that would be a valuable way for me to invest in him as a person in our relationship. It would help our business, but it would also be fun, right? I've got past clients that refer 5, 6, 8 deals a year, and it would be valuable for me to find out what they want. I hate the San Antonio Spurs basketball team, but I have Maverick season tickets, and I'll take certain guys to the Spurs games or the Rockets games or when the Heat come to town. It's obviously not brilliant strategy here, but it's important to say, what are some things I can do that are really fun that are also valuable to my business? What are the things I did in the beginning when I was just getting rolling that I really had fun? Because I'm in a growth mode, or even the opposite, because I'm in desperation mode, doesn't mean that I don't get any fun in my calendar. I want to build some of those things that are fun, that get me excited about my business. For you, that might mean, I don't know what it might mean. You may just have a ton of fun turning the lights out and opening up Excel and working in a spreadsheet for 3 hours. If that's the case, do that. Make sure that's in your calendar a couple of times a week, because you're gonna build your business more quickly, more excitedly, more passionately if you're doing those things that are fun to you, if you're doing those things that are valuable and fun. Am I making sense, Kenny, or am I going off track?
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense.
Okay, good. I had a couple of questions about those things, and I'm trying to kind of roll them into the bullet points I had. So I think I've covered most of those. We've got about 5 minutes left. If you've got a question, go ahead and submit it. If for some reason we're not seeing your question, you can email that to info@toddtremonti.com. Real quick, Kenny, do you want to point them to the link where they can get our daily deal? And then I'll explain that a little bit.
Yeah, so we've got it at a bit.ly link. So it's bit.ly/Todd to do, TODDTODO. So we'll drop that in the on the Google Hangout page, and then we'll probably send a follow-up email as well, just with that information. But that'll be on the Google Hangout page in just a few minutes. And it's bit.ly/TODDTODO, bit.ly/Todd to do.
Okay. We usually have a special domain for you, but Kenny saved you because I was on vacation. He said, hey, we should give them this form. That will really help them. And he put a link together for you. So Kenny gets the extra credit on that one. I was in vacation mode, but want to make sure you guys get that. It's not, well, I was going to say it's not a genius document, but it's made huge impact on our team. When you see it, you can download it, print it, you can modify it, make it your own. But what we do is it allows us to prioritize the top 5 or 6 or 7 things we're going to do every day, and then rank them in order of importance. And then there's got A, B, C next to the ones that are like, these have to happen today, or today was a failure. And then there's a call tracking deal in there. So you can call calls, contacts, appointments. We have a separate document actually for our staff, where that's more of a basic to-do list. And I say basic just meaning number and lines for more actual task-oriented stuff. But that's more of a tracking what was done beyond the major priorities. And then below that, we also track any referrals that we send, whether it's to a vendor or a client. It's not the ones we've received, it's the ones that we've sent. And then there's some space just for some notes throughout the day. I like a hard copy, but you could certainly do a soft copy. You could even turn that into an online form or whatever that gets submitted every day. We have some versions of that as well. But I like a hard copy. I like when the day is done, you throw it into a binder. In a month from now, you can come back and flip through and see the last 30 days and kind of see what was going on. You can use the back of it for notes throughout the day. I like that. It's a little bit old-fashioned, but it works. And then what you're doing is you're also getting that on your digital calendar if you have a digital calendar, or your day timer if you have a day timer. But that's coming off of your weekly plan, your 30-day plan, your quarterly plan, your annual plan. So I hate to make this sound like this 26-layer deal, but it really is easy. You spend the major mental energy on that quarterly plan, and then you chunk that down to your 30-day plan. And then you chunk that down as you reevaluate your calendar every 30 days. Then you say, hey, I'm going to spend an hour every Monday and Wednesday on this, which will have that complete by the end of the month. Now, I can see that link from Kenny. Hopefully everybody else can see that.
Drop that into the chat. It's also on the Google Hangout page. So.
Okay. So with the last couple of minutes, my point is you're not spending hours and hours and hours doing all this. You're spending the bulk of the time each quarter planning out your quarter, chunking that down to a 30-day plan, and then just putting that into your calendar. And then every day you look at your calendar and you do what your calendar says. And if you want to have it all in one place on a to-do list, on a one-page sheet, you write down your big things you need to get done. You track your calls for the day, you track your referrals for the day, and you've had a successful day. Now, I color code my calendar based on highest dollar productive activity, regular routine things, team-related things, outside personal health, whatever. You can do that if you like or not. And then if I need to move things, I move them. But the last thing I want to talk about, Kenny touched on it, you have to be able to have integrity with yourself. If you put something on your calendar, that's you committing to that priority. If it's not a priority and you don't really care if it gets done, don't put it on your calendar. or maybe put it on there in a certain color that's kind of a take or do or don't color. But if you find that you're putting something onto your calendar, that's because you're prioritizing it. You're making a commitment to do it. If you find that it's not getting done, try it at a different time. Try it giving it a different chunk of time. But if it's important enough for you that you put it on your plan and it made it to your calendar, you need to have integrity with yourself. Meaning, if I tell myself I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find a way to do it. I'm not going to let things get in the way of that getting done. I'm not going to let things interrupt it. I'm going to tell myself the truth. I'm going to have integrity with myself. Now, if you can't have integrity with yourself, how in the world can you have integrity with anyone else? So if I see team members putting things on their calendar and not doing them, as a leader, I'm simply saying, hey, how do I help you have more integrity with your calendar and with yourself? How do I help you achieve your own goals? So we took it wire to wire. That's the full hour for today. If you have questions and we didn't get them covered, let us know. These are the type of things we're discussing in our members-only coaching group. If you're interested in that group, email us at info@toddtremonti.com. info@toddtremonti.com, or feel free just to reply to one of the reminder emails that we sent you about this event, or one of the invites to this event. Feel free to forward these to anybody else that you want to include, friends or agents in your office or whatever. We'd love to have you in the group. We'd love to have you on the free stuff. Hopefully this is helpful for you and your business. I share it because I really enjoy doing it, and because I want people to get an idea of how we help real estate agents in our members only group. That is private Facebook group, private calls, access to our resources, our training material, access to Kenny, access to me, our team members, and some of our private consulting clients that will fly in and spend a couple of days with us, get all of that and more and more and more. So if you're watching this live, thanks for being on. If you're watching the recording, check the page for the link to get the free download of the document we use to do this on our team. Email questions to info@toddtremonti.com, questions you have about this or our private coaching group. And I appreciate your time. I'm going to get back to my vacation. You guys get back to selling houses, and we'll see you on the next one. Have a great day. We'll see you on the next fourth Wednesday of the month at 1 o'clock Central on Real Estate Realities. Have a good one. Get out there, sell some houses, and we'll see you soon. Take care.